Well, welcome everybody to our meeting of full council tonight here at County Hall. Welcome everybody online. Welcome to people in the gallery and our Youth Parliament members. Are they present at this time? No. Okay. Just the usual routine things first. There's no fire drill planned tonight that we know of. In the event of a fire, please use the stairs to the left and down staircase. If anybody needs any assistance, then we've got people who will be able to support that. The meeting is being recorded tonight, so that everybody is aware of that. Please turn off your mobile phones or onto silent during the meeting. And that's those little bits done, as far as I can see. So our first bit is that we move on to apologies. And we have some apologies. Would you just like to read them out? So, oh, sorry, they're here in front of me. So we have apologies from Councillor Levy, Ray Redrup, Councillor Robertson, Medland. Councillor Price is running late, I understand. Do we have any more? No? Thank you very much for that. I haven't had anything. Councillor Quigley added to the list. Thank you for that. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? Thank you. None. And that brings us to public question time. So we have two written questions, and I invite our Chief Executive to read out the first one as the Youth Councillor not present.
Thank you, Chairman. The first question is from the Youth Council, and it is to the Cabinet Member for Children's Services. And the question is as follows. What is the Isle of Wight Council doing to ensure maintained schools comply with their obligations under the Equality Act 2010?
Thank you very much. Would the Councillor Bacon like to respond?
Whilst maintained schools are maintained by the local authority, compliance with the obligations under the Equality Act 2010 is the responsibility of the governing body of each school. In discharging their duties under this Act, schools can seek support from the local authority. The local authority conducts regular monitoring of standards through visits to each maintained school. Similarly, all schools are inspected by Ofsted. When concerns are raised around compliance with any legislation, including the Equalities Act 2010, the local authority will investigate these and ensure schools are supported with the discharge or in the discharge of their duties.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bacon, for that. And we have a second question. Sorry. From Mrs. Kay Solon Murphy, who's clearly not here. So again, if I could ask our Chief Executive to read that out.
Thank you, Chair. This is a written question from Captain Kay Sloan Murphy, and it is to the Leader of the Council. During the extraordinary full council, 5 councillors abstained and 3 left the room based on a presumed conflict of interest. But when it came time to declare, I don't remember any audible declarations made. The following evening, 7 councillors voted in favour to overturn the full council of 39. My question is this. How many councillors in the Cabinet abstained during the extraordinary meeting full council vote? And a follow-up, if there were any councillors who voted in the Cabinet meeting who abstained or left who did vote, can they justify voting was not a conflict of interest?
Thank you very much. Just going to reply to that. Is the Leader?
Thank you, Chair. Our replies at the extraordinary full council on the 8th of January, 6 cabinet members were present. just prior to the vote, 3 of those 6 left the room and did not take part in the vote. The 3 cabinet members that remained in the room abstained from the vote at full council. At the cabinet meeting on the 9th of January, a day later, all 7 cabinet member councillors voted. It is for each councillor on cabinet to decide if there is a conflict, and none were declared. Legal advice prior to both meetings was given to all cabinet members who formed their view about the risks involved in engaging with the full council process and vote, which was not a formal legal decision-making vote. That's the response, Chair.
Thank you very much for your response. We have one additional question. It's okay. From Mr. Darrell Pitcher.
Thank you, Chairman. Given that the members of all the unitary authorities and the combined authority will have the same workload and responsibilities once the arrangement is in place, could I bring the leader's attention to the following? Basic members' allowances for the 4 authorities are as follows. Portsmouth, £13,516, Southampton, £13,900, and Hampshire, £14,048, while Isle of Wight councillors currently receive just £9,605, some £4,500 less, all for the same commitment. Will the leader therefore undertake to give guidance to the independent remuneration panel that, given the synergy, they should use these 3 partner authorities as their benchmark going forward and seek to bring Isle of Wight councillors in line with their partners doing equal work? Or will Isle of Wight councillors remain the poor relation in the combined authority?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. That looks like it was directed to the leader.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Of course, remuneration panel, as we know, is independent of this council, and therefore we would not seek to intervene in their work or recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Pitcher. Would you like a supplementary?
I would, if I may,
If
Chairman.
you could just go to the question, please.
Is it not the case that guidance can be given to the independent remuneration panel?
You, leader.
I have no idea whether it's the guidance allows that. What I'm very clear about, it's independent, should remain independent, and a long way away from us as councillors who have to make a decision at some point in our financial year about accepting their recommendations. I think it would be bad form at the very least if it were to be seen that councillors were making suggestions to that independent panel.
Thank you for your response, leader, to that. So we have no more questions, which brings us on to Chairman's official announcements. So I don't have any official announcements at this particular time. I just want to thank the staff of our council for their huge effort, which they have been involved in since before Christmas, with devolution and other things coming down the line. They've worked really hard. We're a small council now, and they deserve the recognition for that hard work, and I want to thank them for that. That's all our staff, officers as well. Thank you. So, leaders' update report.
Thank you, Chair. As each month goes by, each full council meeting we have, there's a report from me. I'm not going to take your time up. It's in our papers, and I'm happy to take any questions that relate to any items in that report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. See straight away that we have Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Leader. If you go down to your second page, you mentioned the key projects, venture keys in cows and the like. My committee recently had the opportunity to look at the previous regeneration strategy, And one of the key things that we were concerned about is the formation of a skills board. I wanted to put it on public record here in full council and ask you whether that skills board will be formed in the near future.
Councillor.
I'm going to come back to you on that, Councillor Stewart. I am aware that, and I'm sure there'll be questions later about devolution, that this is very much something that would come forward through the region in devolution. But let me come back to that specific question with a specific reply, which obviously will be made public and will be circulated to all councillors.
If it's helpful.
Councillor Jones has
Thank you, Chair.
further
Just as Councillor Stewart knows, I was at the scrutiny meeting, his scrutiny meeting week before last, and we had our Economic Development Board last week, as I said at his meeting, and it was brought up. We are reforming the Skills Board, and it's on the next agenda for EDB.
We'll get some more detail on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. Leader, I particularly on the second page of your report and the second paragraph, you mention about partnership working with Southern Water, which is very much welcome, and particularly about trying to reduce surface water. What do you think about the fact that Southern Water, from January the 1st, discharged just in Ryde alone 77 times, and last year in Ryde alone 652 times, so which actually was more than the last three years. So even though it's really good that we've got these projects, it's not stopping raw sewage getting into our beaches and onto our seas. And what do you think you should, as leader, do in tackling that? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councillor Lee. And straight away, let me say that's unacceptable. I don't think we should be putting up with that kind of discharge. Unfortunately, as you know, Southern Water have certain parameters in which they operate in terms of their discharges and how and when they do that. It works against us as an island, it works against our visitor economy, it works against our residents, and it works against the pleasantness of our beaches that we have around the island. That said, we continue to work with them in partnership on the surface water issues that we have. So I think two separate issues. And on the surface water issues, we're making some progress. Outside of, most of us come in the back door, but if you come in the front door, you'll see the work going on there. That's going to be replicated across this island in other areas. And I know that there are plans in Council, I think it's Council Fuller's in Gurnard and other areas as they roll out some of their Pathfinder scheme on the island. So I'm happy about the partnership in terms of the surface water. Think it's going to, over a period, help and deliver strategies against flooding. I'm unhappy about the discharges, Councillor Lilly.
Thank you very much. Yes, certainly.
On that, when we agreed the motion from this full council, it was talked about water quality and actually having schemes of testing water, particularly areas that are in public, like our beaches, of that, which has been done in South Sea, where you've actually got information. Are you pursuing to get water quality testing across all our beaches?
Thank you, Councillor. So we're working in partnership. The partnership's a partnership with Southern Water. So we're working in partnership on all of these issues. There has to be an improvement. We need government to help us on this as well because of the parameters that allow Southern Water to do this. We want better water quality. We are working with them in partnership and we'll do all that we can to improve, reduce discharges, improve water quality and improve the effect of flooding for our residents on this island.
Thank you very much for your question. Councillor Critchison.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that it's great news about the town funding for RIDE and the Green Link funding. The Green Link, the Greenway, is that the Greenway? So you say that you haven't got confirmation for or further details at the moment, but is there any way we know whether when this could start? Because I know we've been waiting for this Greenway for a long time. So really positive if we can actually know when we get a start date. Thank you.
You know, as with governments get excited, not excited, but the great news is that the funding is coming to the island. Originally, when it was granted, it was put on hold. When the new government came in, there was a really tight time frame. It was about a year or 15 months to be able to deliver. And with some of the problems of land ownership on that route, that was going to be a tough ask of us anyway. Actually, the delay has given us time to work on some of those issues. The exact date, no, we're waiting for those details, but we're assured that that money is coming and will be spent on that particular project from RIDE to freshwater. So we do look forward to it. I can't give any more details because we don't have them.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jarman.
Thank you, Chair. I admire the leader's reference to SUDs, and I think in many areas they are a very useful tool in our armoury to deal with the issue of surface water drainage in particular. But is he aware that there are many areas on the island for which they are not applicable, particularly the areas which do not have permeable soil levels, including, for example, much of the area of Colwall, where many of the residents have had to fit non-return valves to their sewage system, and many others are doing the same to stop the sewage backing up into those systems every time it rains or exploding on Colwall Common. Of course, when they have that non-return valve activated, they can't use their domestic toilets or other flushing mechanisms. So will he ensure that all planning applications through his cabinet member are appropriate where SUDs are proposed?
Planning matters are not a matter for me as leader of this council. They're a matter for the planning committee and planning officers. So I can't give any specific guarantees. Councillor Fuller looks like he wants to give you more of an answer.
Councillor Fuller.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm very happy to meet with Cllr Jarman in freshwater to be able to look to see what the solutions are. As you will be aware, as most members will be aware, that we did have a supplementary planning document created to look at SUDs and to look at surface water drainage. I think one thing needs to be recognised, and I think Councillor Dorr will hear me out on this one, is one solution does not fit all. And I think what we need to do is we need to have a conversation, perhaps with Cllr Jarman within freshwater to find out what solutions could be found in the future. I think it is important, and certainly spending quite a lot of time in freshwater lately, up to my ears in mud, I can sympathise with some of the issues that Cllr Jarman is referring to, but I'm quite happy to have that discussion and to get something in the diary with Cllr Jarman to see if these issues can be resolved, as I'm trying to do with other members across the island at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Perhaps you could circulate some notes from your meeting when that comes up to all councillors as part of the information system. Thank you. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Leader, just looking at your report, the last 5 paragraphs, obviously lots of very good news there. And just a quick adding up in my head, including the ride board money, we're looking at about £40 million worth of investment coming to the Isle of Wight. I don't know whether you had anything more to say regarding the quality of our bids and our ability to deliver as an island council.
Thank you, Councillor Jones-Evans. Absolutely, that's the good news. You know, we do as a council have struggles, stresses, strains and difficulties with funding and financial matters. These are some of the other side of the coin where we've been successful in attracting that funding to our island, and that they are, as you point out, are good news. Good news events and funding for our island, and ones we should celebrate and note very carefully, because they don't come all the while, and they come when they do come, they are very valuable to us.
Thank you. And Councillor Mosdale.
Thank you, Leader. I sort of have a question about your leader's report. My request for the leader's report is actually, in future, can we have something that's not just all the good news stories? We know that we're in one of the worst budget positions that we've been in a long time. And as much as this makes nice reading, we're councillors and we need a fair share of the bad news as well as the good news. It doesn't feel very balanced for the actual true situation that we're in at the moment. So my request to you is, could we have the bad stuff, the stuff that us as councillors need to be really aware of, as part of your councillor's report, just not just all the good news. It looks a really good an election leaflet, but I think in this chamber we need the raw bones of what's going on at the moment, please.
Very much.
That's a yes. The leader of the Conservatives says, say yes. I'll say yes then.
I think the wording that I would prefer are things that we need to work on to improve where we are, rather than the bad things. Let's be a bit. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Oh, one more question. Sorry, Councillor Daw.
Chair, am I able to expand briefly on the SUDS with the leader on this? It's not a direct question to the leader, but I'm happy to expand a little bit for the benefit of others, because this is actually a major achievement for Isle of Wight Council. The partnership that's being created means that we can get round the procurement process through some of the elements, which will take a lot longer, which means the SUDS will be delivered a lot quicker. We're not having to go through the traditional framework pathways. So it's a massive, massive win. Cllr Jarman will be quite happy to hear that, I'm sure. Councillor Fuller's been working hard on that, so's the leader, but an incredible amount of work from the officers in the background, and I'd like to pay credit to them. It's a major achievement.
I don't mind indulging you, but it is questions to the leader. But thank you very much for your point. I appreciate that. I think all done, gone, as they say. So that is the end of members' questions. And thank you very much for your questions. So we now move on to the report of the monitoring officer. Nominations and appointments to committees and public documents pack. Oh, Osdale.
Thank you. Councillor, as you're aware, we at full council, if there is a position that becomes vacant that has an SRA, we vote for it on full council. I can't see anywhere on here where we'd be voting for a vice chair of corporate scrutiny. I do have somebody that I'd like to put forward. I'd just like to know where on the agenda we're going to have that vote, because it is a full council vote, because it does have an SRA.
I'm happy to deal with that. So if we can deal with the monitoring officer's report, if everybody else is okay with that, and it looks like people are, then I'm happy to deal with that, because you're right, this is the place to deal with it. And I believe it is in the appendix as well. So revised appendix. Oh, the revised appendix. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay, but we will deal with it. That's the point. Okay. Monitoring officer.
Thank you, Chairman. The members have got the report in front of them. You should have a revised appendix, which has changed things somewhat. I don't know whether there is a spare that you can share.
Can I just check? Has everybody got that revised appendix? Yeah.
It was published.
I'm seeing yeses and nos.
So Have you got a spare you can share? So which? I've got one. That's mine. Chairman, this is to advise members of vacancies on bodies and scrutiny committee. There's also an item in the revised appendix about council appointing the vice chair, which has become vacant. So through you, Chair, it's just a question of seeking nominations for each body at a time. There's three altogether. There is the corporate parenting board. In bold are the nomination, the vacancies. Yeah. So we've got two on there. So seeking nominations for two on the corporate parenting board.
So can I just go to Councillor Broad, who's just indicated he'd like to speak?
Just one clarification. I'm quite relaxed about the corporate parenting board and this SACRE. Can't remember what the acronym stands for. An addition is to replace Cllr Spink on the corporate scrutiny committee with Cllr Jarman. I'm going to ask this question again. Are we able to vote against that?
It's a question that we turn to the monitoring officer. Well, yep, yeah, it's council vote, isn't it?
So essentially, the nominee of a group leader can be rejected by full council.
So I'm hearing, so I'll let the monitoring officer come in on that one. I'm hearing some differences. Could you just give us a second, everybody?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It is normal for the nominations to be accepted by full council. However, this is a full council decision. There is no automatic going into the role. So council can vote on it, is my understanding.
But just for clarity, it was only under the current monitoring officer that this arrangement was brought in place. Previously, group leaders made nominations to committees. I used to do it when I used to have colleagues, and that was accepted instantly, and they could participate in the committee straight away. The only things that were brought to full council were underlined members, people like myself, for their membership of committees. But under the current monitoring officer, we have what I consider farcical, of a situation where the nominations of group leaders, firstly, can be rejected, but secondly, for example, if Cllr Spink had resigned from this committee the day after, well, after today, tomorrow, we would then have to wait, his group leader would then have to wait 2 months. No, sorry, the end of February, a month and a half before they could change that, thus missing committee members for his group. And I've just always felt extremely uncomfortable with that. I don't know where the law is regarding that. I've never seen anything like that. And that's why I asked the question. Can I vote against Councillor Jarman? It would be ludicrous. He's the group leader. He's nominating himself. It would be, well, more than that, it would be farcical there for us to reject him. So I'm going to vote against Councillor Jarman, not because I've got anything personal against him, you know, because I just think this is a farce. And I would encourage everybody on this council to vote against it, just to demonstrate that it is a farce. Thank you, Chair.
Is it a point of order?
This
well,
question to the monitoring officer. It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that the corporate scrutiny committee should be proportionate to the cross section of council. No, I've always understood that the chair should be disproportionate, but that the composition of the committee should be proportionate.
okay, so So if I just try and bring some kind of, so we've clearly got some differences of opinions about how this all works together. Clearly, this needs to be looked at moving forward, and we have got a review of our guidance and governance going on. So that's something that needs to be included within that and picked up to clarify it, because I think that that's the only way that we can do it as things stand at this moment. I'll come to you in a moment, Councillor Mosdale, but we've clearly got a difference here, which I will have to take advice from our acting legal to clarify that.
Chair, can I just quickly come
Well,
back?
can I just go to Claire?
Well,
and then
okay, well,
no,
forget
I will.
the point.
No, I
Forget
will.
the point. It's okay.
Well, Claire did indicate first, but I will come to you.
Yeah, thank you. I think all this council agreement, you know, when I was first a councillor, we didn't have this great long thing coming to every full council. We've got to vote on committees. If you have a member of your group who's seriously poorly and then can't go and sit on, now I was really poorly and there was no substitutes once to actually go on a licensing committee. That committee had to be cancelled. You know, this is actually being like handcuffed to a goat at the moment. We shouldn't have to all sit through full councils with the public watching us deciding who's sitting on a committee. It should be down to group leaders. And my fear is when we go into the committee system, if we are still hampered in this way, we are going to have committees not working properly. So it might not be an issue that needs to be resolved tonight, but it should be for group leaders to do it. And then if there's an SRA, for full council to vote on that position that has a SRA.
I thank you for that, and I do agree it is messy. I think we've all raised this before about how much time we spend on this particular matter. Councillor Brodie, would you like to make a comment? Thank you very much. So where does that actually leave us at this moment? We'll go to the monitoring officer just for a second.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. In terms of this item here, we need to stick with the process we've got. I mean, I've heard what members have said about going forwards, but I think we have to stick to the process we have now. And the process we have now is to vote for those nominations, basically. Nominations come through. The normal thing would be for council to support the group nominations, but council discretion can't be taken away.
Okay.
Second, I think you'll find if you approach other councils, not many of them adopt this process. Yeah. It's increasingly bureaucratic and we need to change it. And I'm sorry, Chris, I'll be.
Yeah. So I agree that it needs to be, you know, without any doubt, we need to spend some time looking at this and resolving it once and for all. And so I would ask that outside of this particular meeting that we actually do that group leaders get together, come up with their recommendations and suggestions and bring them back to us. But right now we are faced with what we have on the paper here. So so we are going to go.
I'll raise a point of order then, Chair. So could I confirm with the monitoring officer that if the only other nominee from a group who has a nominated place on a committee is not accepted by this full council following what you've just said, that is effectively fettering the representation process that we have democratically agreed. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairman, through you. I mean, the democratic process is all of you, councillors. So it's your choice to how you exercise that political mandate.
Okay, so I realise that there are hands up, but I want to try and deal with this now, if I'm really honest about it. I think it's in front of us. We've got a nomination. We either agree or we don't agree on that.
Chair, sorry,
and then we'll deal with
it. The democratic process is not to be told by the substantive monitoring officer of a process that we all disagree with, and I'm sure we all do, because it's nonsensical. And the democratic process is to go back to the system we used to have before, which nobody ever disagreed with. That's democracy, not dictatorship by an officer of this council. Yeah. Thank you.
So I don't feel that he's dictating. I think he's trying to find solutions. That's what I feel at the moment. So we are either going to proceed with this or we're not going to proceed with it. Yeah. So I'm going to go to we've got a nomination for that. I'm going to go to the vote on this one, and we will sort this out afterwards. I promise that's one thing that we will try and do. So can you just read the nomination for this?
Yes,
Keep up the mic on.
yes, Chairman. In terms of the revised appendix, we need a nomination for the Corporate Parenting Board, and my understanding is, yeah, those are the nominations received, yeah? So we have Councillor E. Blake and Councillor M. Price for the Corporate Parenting Board. If we can take a vote on that, Chairman? Yes, sorry, apologies. Sorry, apologies. So we have, in terms of the Corporate Parenting Board, the nominations are Councillor E. Blake and Councillor M. Price.
So how would you like to do this? Would you like to go around and you all name the councillor, or do you want to do it on block? Okay. I'm quite happy to do that. No problem. If that's what you would want to do. So we're going to vote on block for the appointments, and then we will seek nominations for the vice chairman. Okay, is that okay? Okay, so we've got there in the end. All those in favour, please show. This is the whole block. We'll come to the. So that's unanimous.
Chair.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Just a moment, Jeff. My mistake. I admit I make mistakes occasionally. Some people can't admit that they make mistakes. Okay, so those against? One against, thank you. Abstentions? None, thank you. So that is carried. So now.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. Now a vote for the Vice Chair of Corporate Scrutiny, because I think the others have been appointed on block now. Yeah, seeking nominations?
Yes, Councillor.
To make it balanced, I would like to nominate Councillor Brodie.
Councillor Brodie nominated. That's seconded, but does Councillor Brodie accept that? Thank you. Any other nominations, Councillor Garrett?
Yes, Chair, I'd like to nominate an experienced former Vice Chair of the committee, Councillor Lilly.
And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Adams. Do you accept the nomination? Thank you. Do we have any more nominations? Okay. So what we'll do is, we need to have a show of hands for the two candidates to start with. So it's a show of hands for Councillor Lilly to start with, please. So that's 5. And a show of hands for Councillor Brodie, please. Much. So Councillor Brodie is appointed into that position. As I said previously, we will try and bottom this out. We do need to bottom this out quite rightly in the future. Thank you, Monitoring Officer. So we now move on to budget setting process, procedures and rules. Councillor Garrett, I believe, is going to help present this one.
So thank you, Chair. I'm sure all members have read the report. It was so during last year, 2024, the Audit and Governance Committee sought some legal advice about our budget setting rules. As part of the response to that, the legal advisors identified two areas in particular where our standing orders potentially fettered our discretion. And we cannot have our discretion fettered. The legal officers have statutory rights, of course, that they can step in after that point. So it was considered at December's Audit and Governance Committee that we should recommend to this full council, which is the only body that can modify our constitution out with any minor typographical amendments. And so I shall move that full council agree the recommendation of the Audit and Governance Committee and adopt the revised wording of the Council's current budget meeting standing orders as per paragraph 9 of this report. For those who need refreshing, that will remove a requirement to have written approval from the Section 151 officer and completely delete another part so as to ensure that we are unfettered in our considerations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Garrett. And your seconder, Councillor Stewart, thank you. Now, would people like to move on and debate? And you have 3 minutes. Or not, you don't have to. Thank you very much, Councillor Mosdale.
So I have a huge amount of respect for Councillor Garrett, and I listen to his meetings and they're really, really well run. I think, having listened to the committee, that it's been looked at, it's been discussed at about another committee. There's nobody in this chamber who actually doubts on how Councillor Garrett moves with data and stuff like that. So I just suggest we move to the vote. We've wasted enough time talking about the dribble just now. Thank you.
Got a suggestion to move to the vote, but would anybody else like to comment? Councillor Brodie?
Yes, Chair, just briefly, I think this is long overdue, to be frank, and I applaud the Audit and Governance Committee for what they're recommending to full council. The ability of the Section 151 officer to block amendments, etc., has always been, again, on my theme earlier on about officers dictating to councillors. That should never happen. Democracy is about the 39 members of this council, not the officers. That's no disrespect to them, but they work for us. We don't work for them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to comment? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chairman. This is going back to as it was some years ago when we didn't have half the messing around in this chamber, and both Councillor Brodie and myself have put a joint alternative budget, a full alternative budget proposal together, or an amendment, and it wasn't thrown out immediately. But I'll tell you what, there were some good points within that were taken forward to the full budget proposal from the then administration. And I think that's right. I think that, none of us are here to harangue each other unduly. I think that what we need to do is get back the semblance of order that we had going back a few years. Sometimes when we reflect on what was to what there is currently, there's sometimes a better way to be found, and I'm fully in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't. Councillor Quirk.
I second the motion to go to the vote.
Okay. Yes, so we will move to the vote if that's okay by everybody. Okay, those in favour? Okay, thank you. Just check so I don't fall into the same traps. Those against? None that I can see. No abstentions. Abstentions? No. Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much, Councillor Garrett, for that. Sorry to put you on the spot again, but the committee system and constitution.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Again, a report to you. It had been the ambition to bring to you a draft constitution this month. But as you will be aware, significant other matters have intervened to take up the time of the team working on that, and other priorities have come into that. Plus, of course, some very significant and very useful observations, both by members of the committee who have been working on the constitution, but also Cllr Spink and Cllr Brodie, who are keen constitutionalists, and I applaud that. I'm known for my love of data. I also love rules, even though I always think I'd like to be an anarchist once or twice. But I'd also just like to add in that the work that the committee is doing is not just through its formal meetings. We have so far met 4 times informally. Those have been very productive in terms of being able to give steer to the officers who are working on that. And they're working incredibly hard. And as chair, I sit also on the project board that's overseeing this, so I see that as well. So not as well as the development of a constitution, which will indeed be in place for May this year, and we hope that you'll be having a full draft by March this year. Not only that, but a lot of other work to ensure everything is prepared for that committee system change will be in place. So members' briefings and working with the staff who, of course, have to adapt to the way we do decision making here on this council, and also, most importantly, making sure members of the public understand the way in which this will change the way that their elected representatives engage with decision making. It is a decision that people know. I thought this council was made very well last year to move to a committee system. I think many things have shown that we would be better served by a committee system. We're on our way. The discussion just earlier about what the I think it's the 1989 Act in terms of political proportionality means for us is an issue we will need to add to our work programme to make sure that we have covered off every last possible thing. So the one thing we don't want to do, and I'll be sure as Chair of Audit and Governance, is that we don't find ourselves tripping up over things that we might otherwise have resolved before we get going from the annual general meeting in May this year. So I move the recommendations which are at 3, 4 and 5. I'm sure, Chair, you don't need me to read those out. They are as printed in the pack.
Thank you. And your seconder for this, Councillor Lilly. You want to speak or reserve the right?
I just congratulate the work of that committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I just, for clarity, we're bringing a draft to the March meeting, not the February meeting. The March meeting.
Yes, indeed. I think there is enough going on the February meeting to not try to shoehorn something in the last 10 minutes as we watch the clock count down.
Just needed to clarify that because time is running short now, isn't it? So, members, would you like to? Well, I can see that we've got Councillor Julie Jones-Evans who's indicated to speak.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for bringing this report to our full council. I found it a little bit confusing, and Councillor Garrett's helpfully told us that there isn't a draft, because I've been spending quite a while looking for the links through the paper, try and read the draft. There's nothing there. It's very confusing. You go to the link that's there in the paper to the December meeting, where there should have been the working draft there. There's the links aren't there. They're written, but they're not linked. So this paper is completely incomplete. Now I understand why, but it would have been really helpful if this paper had been amended before it came to us. I may not have wasted my time looking for it. And also, so now we've got the 3 options. So it's recommendations 1, 2 and 3. So option 4 on our paper is no longer applicable, as I've just found out. So it's just a bit frustrating because this, constitution, it does take a lot of reading, a lot of understanding. So you need to put time aside, which I did do, to try and find out what was going on. I guess my main question is the timetable. We were supposed to We all agreed there was going to be a working draft that we would review and we would approve the working draft at this meeting. But now we haven't got that. So how is that going to impact on the rest of the timetable? Because obviously we're running out of time now. That's my main question and my main concern.
With your indulgence, Chair.
I'm just thinking that actually it does need a reply, doesn't it, to be fair, for clarity.
Thank you, Chair. So one thing I made certain was that Audit and Governance Committee did have in open session, and there's a formal report, the draft constitution as it was then written. It is available, it's a public document. Councillors Brodie and Spink, as well as members of the committee, have commented on it. Any member who wishes to comment on it, that would be very welcome. We've set up actually a system which we can open up to any member so that you can make your comments if you wish by amending a document. I hope that we'll be able to do that to anybody who makes that request. It's not, if links have not been working, I do apologise for that. But it was published and discussed at the 9th December meeting. It is out there, but of course it is a document that's advancing day in, day out in terms of its text. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I don't really want it to be a questions and answer session, but you can sum up obviously at the point. Councillor Mosdale.
It's not a question, it's a bit of helpful advice. One of my group, I found out how they suck up information so quickly, and it's because they take a document and they turn it into an AI, and then it actually reads it to you. So for those that struggle reading and containing a lot of information, I know when I see loads and loads of words in front of me, so I think that's really good use to be able to do that. I didn't realise you could do it, so I thought I'd share that with you. It's also really good for insomnia.
I can tell you that I do that all the time. All my documents are changed into AI. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you very much. I've made no secret of my support for the committee system. Having served on a committee system for 6 years on the Isle of Wight Council, I can see how committee systems can work if it is done properly. I still have concerns about whether it's being done properly. And I do have a concern that there will be no consultation concerning this because there's no legislative powers to enable that to happen. So that is an issue that I want, but I would like some reassurance that there will be engagement with those out there, because again, we're doing this on behalf of our local communities. So it's about being more open, more transparent to our communities. So I would like some clarification on how that engagement consultation will take place from Councillor Garrett. Thank you.
So we'll come to Councillor Garrett in a moment when he sums up on that. Just want to check any more debating points. Looks like Councillor Stevenson.
I thought this time last year we were virtually ready to go on a committee system for the current year. So I would feel that we're 99% down the track. I would think, because quite honestly, we're a year behind where we thought we would be at this stage. So I sincerely hope that there is time and breathing space for us all to look at this. I haven't been along to a committee or a group meeting of any nature with regard to the committee system, because I'm waiting to see what's going forward. And so can we please just make sure that we do this in a timely manner so that we're all satisfied with how we're going to approach the committee system and manage it for those people out there. And I believe we've already had consultation on the committee system elsewhere anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jarman.
Chair, I'm sure Councillor Garrett won't mind me mentioning that every group is represented on this exercise, and they have a group representative who has online access to the real-time version of the document, which incorporates all of the comments which are being made and the analysis of them. And I'm sure any member of this chamber could approach their group representative to conjoin with that access and to see exactly what the state of the document and progress is at any time, real time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brodie.
Thank you, Chair. Last year, we went through a number of statutory stages of delivering the committee system, including publication of our intention, etc., what the plans were, etc., etc. That was the consultative stage. Councillor Fuller raises the issue, are we going to consult on a draft constitution, which I consider an absolute and utter red herring. Has our current constitution ever been consulted upon with the Isle of Wight population? No, it certainly hasn't. Not in my 20 years, Paul, and I'm sure not in all of your years, is it? So I think you're stating a red herring. And I do worry when people say they're in favour of the committee system, but then come up with obstacles, which I've repeatedly heard over the last year and a half, to be frank. And let's face it, out of the 39 members of the council, how many of you will actually read the whole of the constitution? I mean, it's a bit, I mean, even if you turn it into AI, I mean, you know, if you get past 10 minutes of having it read to you, I'd be astonished. I mean, I'm sad because
I'm sure you'll read it, Councillor Brodie.
I have done. I've read the draft and I've commented, but I was invited to do so. I was grateful that I was, because I'm not part of the process now, and I've made comments about it because I do have some concerns about it, and I'm pleased to do that. I did that just before we were hit with the whole devolution thing. And what Councillor Garrett is explaining is the reason he hasn't got a draft here tonight is because of the whole devolution thing. And obviously you've got the school places thing taken away in the background as well, soon to come to the fore. So I think, you know, what Councillor Garrett is doing is the absolute precisely right thing. But Councillor Fuller, are your residents really going to discuss a 200-page constitution and come back with comments? Because if they are, they're very odd in Cows West and Gurnard. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's amongst are there any more questions? I can't see any more questions. Okay, so Councillor Garrett, would you like to just unless Councillor Lilly would like to say anything? No. So, Councillor Garrett, would you like to just draw this to a conclusion?
You have the recommendations there. We are proceeding as fast as we can with all the other things. We have a legal requirement, of course, to deliver a working constitution in time for the annual general meeting. The officers, you praised officers earlier, Chair, and I would praise those officers, and I do every meeting to thank them for the work they're doing. But of course, it is down to us as members. Ultimately, you will have had to have read the whole document, of course, for March. I am expecting there will be a test. I do know some of the good people of Cows West and Gurnard, and they are exactly the sort of people I would have thought who would comment meaningfully on our constitution. So I hope they do. But it is good that it's brought some levity to this chamber, but it is very serious. I really do appreciate everybody's contribution. If you have anything, even if you're just looking at one section, because that's been your particular interest over the last 4 years, do look at that section and make sure that it would be something that would work for you under the new system.
Thank you very much. So we'll go to the vote then on this. So those in favour, please show. Thank you. Those against? Nobody. Abstentions? 1 abstention. Thank you very much, members, for that. So this leads us on to report of the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Councillor Bacon. Please read your.
Thank you, Chair. I will be very brief. We've been praising officers with words in some of the discussions up to now. This is about the material rewards they richly deserve. We have to approve a new pay policy each year by the end of March, and therefore, as a formality, it is brought before this council for approval. Members have had that in their papers since published. The amendments for this year are set out in paragraph 2, and there it is. I don't think there's anything else I need or to add or could add, so I will go straight to the recommendation that is that full council approve the updated pay policy as drafted for the period 1st of April 25 to 31st of March 2026, and I look for a seconder.
Councillor Andre, sorry. Thank you for that. And would anybody like to comment, debate? And it looks like people don't want to debate. So in which case, we'll just move straight to the vote. Everybody okay? Yep. Okay, those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Thank you. And abstentions? None. Thank you very much for that. And so we have a very short comfort break. We're flying through this pretty quickly tonight. So would people want to carry on? Do people want to carry on? If everybody's happy, if anybody says no, then we will stop. Okay? What are you saying? You want to stop? 5 minutes. Quite happy. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. You all ready? Yeah. Okay, so we now move on to motions submitted under Part 4A of Procedures Rule 9 of the Councillor's Constitution. Councillor Spinks.
Thank you, Chair. I propose the motion that's set out here, and I ask for a seconder, please.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Jarman. Do you want to speak, Councillor Jarman, at this point? Reserve the right. Okay. Councillor Spinks.
Thank you, Chair. I shall be as brief as I can, but explain why I've proposed this motion is because I believe that council-owned land should be utilised to provide truly affordable housing, in particular, properly affordable housing to rent, which is affordable by those on the housing register. Now, we currently have, and indeed I should say that the budget last year was amended to enable that to take place. Currently, we have 230, in fact, over 230 families living in temporary accommodation. Some have been waiting 2 or more years in that accommodation. And what this is doing to their family life and their mental health, I dread to think. Now, despite this, and this has caused me great concern, the leader of this council and the cabinet member for housing and finance are poised to dispose of 22 council-owned sites earmarked for housing. That's a decision that they will take, not as I understand it, if you look at the terms of the delegated decision order, not the cabinet, and certainly not full council. The leader has declined to put a condition that the vast majority of the housing to be built on those sites should be social housing for rent. If carried, this motion will give full council the power to decide the purpose for which these sites will be used. A vote for this motion is a vote, in my opinion, to help those on the housing register to have homes. A vote against this motion will be a vote to continue the well-trodden system of relying on private developers, and the major benefit goes to private developers. I accordingly commend with respect this motion to full council.
Thank you very much. Would people like to speak to this? Councillor Andre.
Thank you, Chair. I have to admit, looking at this, I'm a little confused that Councillor Spink seems to be confusing affordable housing with social housing for rents. I have a question for Councillor Spink, though. He puts in his motion that development by or on behalf of this full council. Well, the council, we are already working where we can with developers, but if that land is going to be developed by the council, can he tell us where that money is going to come from? Because I certainly don't know where that money is in the budget to actually build.
Thank you very much. Can I ask you to answer that at the end, if that's okay? Thank you. We've got lots of hands showing now. Sorry, Councillor Bacon was next.
Thank you, Chair. My concern is about mechanism here. I'm not speak towards the aim of the motion. I mean, firstly, I am a little concerned that this seems to be something we are still under a cabinet system. This seems to be something that raises financial implications. I thought such things had to be referred to council, cabinet, but my main concern is that just trying to make sense of the motion. It seems to I thought there was a police siren starting. We seem to be being asked to approve a strategy, and there seems to be an assumption that that is to happen prior to May to fill a gap. Because I then read in the motion that this is a function that will, after May, go to the new committee, what's referred to as the FPR committee, and that this function will be undertaken by that body from that point under the committee system we're about to enter. But then my confusion arises because the final paragraph of the motion suggests that ongoing this function is dealt with by full council. So I'm just unclear what we're trying to do here. It looks as if the motion is suggesting we create and implement a strategy for full council to deal with that then will serve no function after May because the function is taken on by a committee in any event. So, and I don't know if we're going to get a strategy in place by May as well. That's a rather practical point. So I just don't see, with the impending committee system and the function of the FPR committee, what this is likely to achieve, if anything, in the 4 months before that change comes about. And I'd be grateful if someone could explain to me the situation.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Chairman, if only it were that easy. I'll sit here and I take the remarks, and people quote figures such as Cllr Spink, as though there's no tomorrow. We can say, okay, 200, 300 houses in temporary families in temporary housing. If there was a magic wand, we'd wave it. We've listed sites. We have put forward now a new information for people to would-be developers to come to us and talk. We haven't gone willy-nilly and sold off assets out there at giveaway prices, even to actually entice a developer or two along. I can assure you of that. And I dare say, Councillor Spink, before you drew this up, you went and spoke with the appropriate officer. You didn't obviously come and speak with me. I could have given you chapter and verse on it. So no doubt you're fully attuned to what the officers have told you, because that will be responsible and appropriate. So when you respond in a moment, you can tell me who you've spoken to and what your take of was in what they've said. Because I have this every day, every week, and I've had it for 3.5 years. And if it was as easy as that, easy as, okay, everyone have a say on what we're going to do with the assets, it would be a first for the Isle of Wight Council. It's never happened before. And sometimes it's unwieldy. Let's move into a committee system. Let's see where we go with this, and let's see what we can absolutely attribute to getting our homelessness figures down and those in temporary accommodation. And don't confuse the two. What I would say is that with regards to next month, the budget coming up and trying to get a balanced budget, I hope when you bring forward your amendments that you take into consideration what you're trying to approve here and trying to get the Section 15 officer to somehow see that chink of light that you have an equation or two that I haven't had for 3.5 years and responsible officers haven't. It's not a light subject by any stretch of the imagination. I take it personally. I take it not only personally for those that are in temporary accommodation, but those who are being made homeless because their mortgage has gone sky high and they can't afford their mortgage. You're talking about affordable to rent. Work out the statistics. I believe Councillor Jordan has made known the figures, and they don't balance, even with the land as an asset put into the equation. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morsdale.
Thank you. I'm sure all of us in principle really agree that actually, and I think the Alliance would agree that, if it's a large council asset, that it should at least go to a committee to be discussed how that council asset is being disposed of. But then we also have to go back to the corporate scrutiny meeting that we had a presentation from all the housing associations. We had our 151 officer presenting, and we know that this isn't easy. This isn't a case of there's a piece of council land and actually we're suddenly going to build on it. We know that Branston is a shining beacon passed by our administration, then carried on by the Alliance. But that wasn't easy. That took a long time to get that to stack up and get the finance to actually be able to build that shining beacon. I think what the housing associations were trying to tell us is they want to work really closely with us. What would be really useful, though, is if we could just press pause for what is actually 3 months. And if there is a massive sale of a piece of council land, we're all agreeing that it's too short a time to do in 3 months an extra strategy and an extra this and an extra that. But actually, we do have the committee system coming in May. Last time I looked, it was January now. So it would be good if there is a large asset that could be sold, that we do agree as a council that goes to that committee system. Nobody is saying that this is really easy. I have had so many discussions over a piece of land opposite a high school just down the road from me that, it just hasn't been viable. It hasn't stacked up. We haven't been able to get anybody to help finance that build. So we do all sort of agree, but actually we do realise that it's really quite hard to do it. I would just like to see us having a little bit of a pause and actually taking this into the open in a very democratic way of discussion, these sales, under the rightful place where it should be in the committee system.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Quirk.
Councillor also covered a large part of what I was going to say, but in Cllr Spink's paper in the background, it identifies that there was 3 years ago in the budget amendment the facility to draw down £40 million. So there was funding, and at that stage, the interest rate we would have paid if it had been drawn down is 2.4%, not the 5% percentage that it is now. The last year's budget meeting, there were proposals as to how some of that could be met. That the 151 officer accepted it was possible. It had to be looked at in detail, but it was possible as ways that we could have used some of that money. And the important thing is, however we use that sort of money in the future, if we can find it, that we do need to have council land to put the affordable housing on. Developers would normally pay about 20% of the value of the property that they sell on the site. They'd also be looking to take a margin of about 20% on the building of the site. That's 40%. And we've agreed in this chamber previously that we need to have houses produced at 40% below the market value. We need to get our heads around how we can actually do that. It's not easy. Totally agree, it's not easy. And I'm not decrying that efforts have been made to try and look at the prefabricated homes and how that might work. But we haven't been successful, and we need to be maybe a bit more creative about how we do it.
Thank you, Councillor Quirk. Councillor Lilly.
Thank you. I think some of the points, I mean, it's good that it's raised by Councillor Spink to, have a debate about some of these issues. I just want to make 2 points. Back in 2018, I think under the chair of Councillor Tig Outlaw, there was a task and finish group that actually wrote a very, very good report. Councillor Andre, I think, was involved in it. I was involved in it. Councillor Quirk was in it. That actually looked at lots of hybrid type housing schemes that were part public, part private across the country in places like Cornwall that have had the similar issues. And there was, I think some, like a lot of these reports, we go around in circles because I think a lot of those things that were actually mentioned then could actually be useful now. So I do refer back to that report because I think it still has benefit, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel because there's a variety of things that have been successfully done around the country. The other particular point I want to make is there's been a piece of land in Ryde, which is called Nicholson Road site, which I know quite a bit of money has been spent on trying to it. But one of the things is there hasn't always been a conversation with the local community. Nicholson Road is one of the poorest wards, right? Ryde southeast, and that land could be very much sort of developed. And Ryde Town Council has always wanted, with housing associations and various other stakeholders, to get involved in that discussion, and it's never really happened. And I'm not criticising the council on this. I'm just saying that we have got land that could do some very imaginative social schemes, but there hasn't always been that kind of sort of open door to have those conversations. And I think I'll refer back to that report back in 2018, which was actually talking about having much more community solutions to some of these issues. I just want to make those 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brady.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank Councillor Spink actually for bringing forward a really important issue for us to discuss this evening. I'm sure we will appreciate that. Listening to the comments, Councillor Stephen made an interesting comment actually. I wish things were that simple. I absolutely totally agree with him, because having been involved on Cabinet when Branston was first kicked around, first of all, I had to get the land release from the education portfolio to be able to be made available for what it is. And it is a shine. And it took well over 4 years to get from here it is to this is what it looks like to actually finishing off. So it isn't that simple. I get that. Councillor Baker makes some very good points as well regarding, we are changing systems and bits and pieces. I actually think the motion as it's written is very unclear, as Councillor Baker referred to, and to be honest, very badly written. Because what I would like to have simply seen here was the motion saying the council requests that we pause any land sales until we change the committee system, and the committee then puts in place a proper policy framework document to take forward as a new council, because we are changing in just over 3 months now to a committee system. So the word pause has been used a few times. So we need to pause those land sales till we regroup with a new strategy. So despite saying it's badly written, I am going to support this motion with the caveats I've just mentioned, because we do need to do something to protect our land and use it for the right reasons, for the right housing, and the committee is the right place to take that forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we do have quite we have 5 more on the list. So if we could try and focus on things which are perhaps a little bit different in terms of context, I'd appreciate that. But all of you will get to have your say in this session. So it's Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Chair. I understand the motion is well meant. We all sat around here, we all want to see our housing delivered more quickly. However, I'm concerned that this isn't the way to do it. I'm concerned also about people asking for us to pause on any work that's being done on delivering housing at the moment. All we hear all the time is get on with it and do it. And now we're asking, well, no, don't do it unless you bring it to full council, is what I understand from the motion. We are moving to a committee system, and I'm a bit confused because the motion says an FPR committee, but there's actually a Policies, Resources and Finance Committee, that's PRF, but there's also Adult Social Care, Public Health and Housing Committee. So I'm just wondering what the Housing Committee is going to be doing regarding this as well. So it's a bit unclear, again, what is meant by this motion. So I think we should just leave things as they are for the moment. As Councillor Mosdell said, we do have a process at the minute where things have to go to scrutiny. We're going to be moving swiftly to a change in our governance structure. So it seems to me this is only going to delay things and cause frustration around. So I know it's very well meant, Councillor Spink, but I can't support it. I do apologise.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brodie.
Thank you, Chair. And the most important issue facing this council for its duration, and we're still no further forward, and that's a sad thing. And we've heard from 4 cabinet members so far who all know that housing's a problem, and that's the problem. But that's all we ever hear. I will propose an amendment in a minute to help Councillor Spink with the intention of this motion. But can I just say that at the very worst, this should not be a delegated decision. This should be going to cabinet at the very least. There are, I counted them, 7 members of this council who stood for election almost initially back in 2013 against delegated decisions. And increasingly we see on this council significant decisions being moved from cabinet to delegated decisions. That never happened once, Jonathan and Ian, as former leaders at that time, between 2013 and 17, not once, and yet you do it all the time now. And this is a significant decision that should be going to cabinet at the very least before May, when everything will change. And just quickly, just a reference, yes, we did vote, Councillor Quirk, and you're absolutely right, in 2022 to borrow 40 million pounds. That was on a casting vote that I was very proud to exercise when I occupied that seat up there, much to the surprise of former Alliance colleagues. And I do think we missed a real opportunity, given the level of interest rates at that time, a real opportunity. And again, it was but. That's all we ever heard. The amendment I'd like to propose, Chair, just to try and make sense, because it is, Councillor Spink has never written a motion or an amendment before. He's new to it, although I don't do them anymore because you seem to have to write 3 pages these days. I don't. Well, I did an amendment last week, of course, to which was at the end supported by a majority of councillors across 2 meetings, and hopefully that will apply to school places as well. But my amendment is just to remove in the second paragraph the words from pending down 3 lines to the word structure. That will remove the confusion about the mysterious FPR committee, which is, as Councillor Jones-Evans says quite rightly, is the PRF committee, the Policy, Resources and Finance Committee. So that's a bit from pending and down the structure. It's unnecessary. If it was passed, it would mean that everything would have to go through full council before May and after May. I have no problem with that because, frankly, we have to do something. We had a corporate scrutiny committee the other week where we discussed this, and once again, still nothing happens. Please support my amendment and support the motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So I need to go to Councillor Spinks to see whether if he will accept the amendment.
I'm grateful to Councillor Brady.
Or it's an alterage. It's an alterage. If you would accept the alteration.
I do accept the alteration.
So that then needs a seconder.
No, second. No, the second.
Oh, yes, sorry, that's right. Should know this by now, shouldn't I? The seconder needs to approve it. So is that agreed by council?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Well, if you don't shout out.
Is that agreed by council? Yes? Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, we're fine. It's so. Okay, so we now continue with the debate. And that brings us to councillor Adams.
Thank you. I'd just like to add that I appreciate this isn't easy. It's in fact very difficult. But I also believe matters of land disposal are very opaque where councillors are concerned. And we are obstructed from seeing what the assets have been disposed of. And I think that's wrong. I think regarding this problem with housing, we need social housing. And to get proper social housing for the people of this island, the council need to be in control. I think a way of gaining that control is we sell some of the assets to raise the funds, and with those funds that we raise, we channel that in to developing some of the remaining land. It's not rocket science, but the council need to be in control. Then we can provide something for the residents and something which they can afford. Just my view.
Thank you, councillor Adams. We've got two more showings. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Chair. Members will recall that I've been here 2 years. They may be reluctant to recognise it. They might prefer I wasn't here for 2 years, but there we go. 2 years ago, I raised housing at my very first meeting, which was January, and then again, and then again, and then again. And we've seen very little progress for a variety of reasons. I have tried since to try to understand some of the other possibilities, including things like community-led housing, which also allows local councils generally to get more involved, and things like rural exceptional housing, as well as different methodologies for building houses, including there is actually on the island a housing company which is producing prefab houses of sorts. That housing company is involved in a development on the island, which is managed and supported by a housing association. There are options available. However, although I fully understand where Councillor Spink is coming from, and we've had many discussions where we agree that what we're looking for is social housing, I struggled with this particular motion, and I'm not certain at this stage that I'm able to support it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fuller and then Councillor Garrett, and then hopefully we're all done.
Thank you, Chairman. Certainly, I would like to see a mention of social housing as well, because that is so important at the moment. We've been banging on about affordable housing for years, and we all know, and Councillor Spink will always say, affordable homes on the island are not affordable. One of the things that I think is quite important when we're moving into a committee system is to bring the Isle of Wight Council together. You know, at the moment we have planning making decisions and one part of the island, one part of the authority, housing making another decision somewhere else, and we have planning services working separately. And, you know, what needs to happen, in my view, is to get those three departments working together. In the last 12 months, that has happened. We have got that. But again, I've looked at the committee system that we've got coming up. What we really need, if we are all serious about social housing and providing housing for people on the island, maybe we should be looking at having a planning, housing and property services committee all in one, where officers have to talk to one another more frequently. They have to be in the same room as each other frequently, and then maybe we can make some progress on where there are issues that seems to be stifling development and housing, affordable housing, social housing in the way that we want. I think Jeff himself, as a member of the planning committee, has put forward some very good resolutions over the years, particularly with respect to local housing in perpetuity, which is part of the island planning strategy, affordable housing for rental people, and also for you know, certainly housing for sale as well. There are a lot of different machinations on how we provide that social housing on the island. It's not going to getting easier. It's getting a lot more difficult because of the costs to build now, and we've seen a plateauing in our housing figures in the last year because of that. But if we can actually do something positive within the committee system, I would like to see that happening in the future, and I would be very, very pleased to be involved in that.
Thank you very much. So we go to Councillor Garrett, and then I'm hoping that we can go to right to reply of Councillor Jarman.
Thank you, Chair. As I indicated to the Leader of the Council in a meeting today, I've had some sympathy with the sentiments of this motion. First, I would just offer that we need to be cautious about motions on what appears on our order papers. Whilst I accept that what is in the preamble is factually correct, I think we need to find a way of making sure we focus on what is actually a motion. And of course, we are going through a constitutional exercise in any case. What would worry me is what would happen if a preamble actually was found to include that would leave the council publishing something that was subsequently found to be inaccurate, potentially capable of litigation. I think that would be a very difficult situation to be in. I'm not suggesting that of this motion, but I do think we need to be cautious in that respect. The preambles can be left for speeches. I will support this motion. I think it's an imperfect motion, but I think I'm following Councillor Brading on this, that it is about sentiment, it's about the direction of travel. And also just looking at the council's own website's discussion of council land for development, I am not sure that there's anything in this motion that is in contrary fundamentally to those statements. Finally, we are heading towards a committee system. I would urge all councillors to have regard to the capacity of our officers to work at pace on that and everything else at the moment. We saw how long it took to bring a poverty reduction strategy through this council. From a motion proposed by my colleague Councillor Lilly, it took over 12 months. So it is on the basis of the sentiment that I'm supporting this motion, but and in terms of the process that in May fundamentally is this motion would just passes over anyway into the committee system.
Thank you for that. I have seen that your hand has gone up, Councillor. Do you like to? Yeah. It's important that we all debate properly. It's a good debate going on. I accept that. So please present.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. I actually want to throw a bit of a spanner in the works, though, and suggest an amendment to the motion to keep the preamble, but to actually remove pretty much the entire text of the motion and replace it with an amendment to say all council land sales by delegated decision be paused until the new committee system is created to decide on such decisions.
Thank you very much, but I'm receiving some legal advice which suggests we can't do that. No, yeah. So, but thank you for your comments. You know, so that leaves us with the leader, then right to reply.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't going to speak because, as you say, it's interesting to hear these fights. But every time we have this, these kind of discussions, I keep hearing the same conflation. We talk about affordable. What I heard was not only affordable, but truly affordable. That'd be interesting, what truly affordable is. But Councillor Quirk had a pretty good stab at what that might be. 40% of market rate said. I would disagree with that. And in fact, the island plan that some of our councillors in this chamber opposed for so long, if you remember, has written into it affordability at 60% and 70%.
Chair,
ironic.
Can I give a point of order to the leader? This motion was about, the onus of this is about the sale of council land by delegated decision. We got misled onto a whole discussion on affordable housing and stuff like that.
He has the right to comment, though. That's the point.
Thank you, Chair. And so I wouldn't disagree with that 40%. Let's have a quick numbers. I've done this enough times. Bear with me. I'll do it. I've only got the 3 minutes. 895, that's about £900 is about the market rent on this island, roughly. I know lots of people are paying 11, 12, 1300, but you know, it gets worse if I pick them numbers. 900 a month. 40% of that's £360. So you can accept roughly affordable rent on this island is £540 a month. Let's say 550, so you can do the numbers in your head. If you borrow, because that's the only way we can do this, if you borrow to provide those homes, over 40 years, Section 151 officer will allow 40 years borrowing. For £1 million, it's £68,000 a year. For £1 million, you'll build 6 homes. That's what you'll build. Okay? So one home, that's £11,000 per home just to cover the cost of the loan. Very nearly £1,000 a month for affordable home at 40%. Okay? But you're going to rent it out at 540. So it's costing you £1,000 a month, but you're going to rent it at 540. Okay, that's fine. Where's the 500 coming from? Because here's the first problem, and the Section 15 officer have made this clear. He will not allow you to borrow money if you cannot cover the cost of the loan. So my question is, where does the £500 per month per home subsidy come from? And when you've worked that out, that's per home. When you've worked that out, where the subsidy comes from, that will help you understand why not only on this island, I don't know why you find it so funny, it's a serious business, Cllr Jarman.
Come on.
You know, when you've worked that out, because that's real. That's real. And it's facing other authorities as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for that.
Just, and it's important. When council housing was beginning to be built in this country in the 1920s, councils borrowed over a period of 75 to 80 years. They were not permitted by their finance officers. They made the decisions to do that, and their chief finance officers arranged for it. Yeah. And all we heard in that discussion, in that presentation by the leader, was about our Section 151 officer allowing us. As I said earlier, who runs this council? Councillors or officers?
You've made your point.
Thank you.
You've made your point. Thank you, and I appreciate the point. Yeah. So now, right to reply, Councillor Jarman.
Thank you, Chair. We've heard some final remarks which were completely off point here. I do think there are some who've been very well educated by our 151 officer. I'm not one of them, and I'll be happy to resist this going forwards. We've also heard earlier about the fettering of issues brought before the Chamber and before members by the 151 officer. We've started to bring those to a conclusion and to stop them. I think this is another area where we need to do this. But this motion is not about individual business cases. This is about the process. This is about making sure that we, as an Isle of Wight council, understand very clearly the value of the asset which we have, and that we are able in time to undertake a policy that will bring that land to fruition for predominantly social rent housing to overcome the housing problem that we have. It is unrealistic to assume that this council can buy land and make a better business case than it can using its own existing land to do exactly the same. That is an absurdity. Incurring an additional cost to deliver the same value simply does not work. So I would urge members to support this motion. It is very sound. The comments that have been made by Councillors Quirk and Brodie regarding the borrowing are equally valid. I think the delay that's come in here is inexcusable, and much of the process has been fettered by the 151 officer in his requirements for how that financial justification is made. We do not have to accept that. That's been clarified for us. We need to be responsible in what we do, and I think there is a much better alternative to consider. The key element of this motion is that elements are effectively stopped and brought before this council according to a policy and not before that policy. Thank you.
There's a statement been made there that is that the section, we do not have to take what the section 1.5 officer says. I'm afraid that he has the powers to approve or not approve loans. That is not correct, what's been stated. We do have to take his advice. It's not advice.
Okay, thank you for making the point of order. Thank you there. Now, now we have the right to reply from Councillor Spinks.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and answer some of the, well, I'll try and answer the questions that I've been asked. Where's the money coming from? Well, as Cllr Jarman has said, this isn't about the individual merits of each and every council-owned land. It's about the process. It's about having a policy, which we did have in the budget. It's about making sure that that policy is followed. And my concern is that if this motion is not passed, my very grave concern is that this land will be disposed of before the committee system comes into play in May. I wonder if Councillor Jordan would like to say that that isn't so and undertake that he won't do that, but I doubt that he will give that undertaking. Once the land goes, it's gone forever. All we're asking for is for this council to look at the pros and cons and to consider it. We've been denied that by delegated decisions and by what I consider to be unfair claims to commercial confidentiality. We need to examine this properly before we chop up the staircase to keep the fire going. That's my submissions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I think we've had quite a lot of opinions all around the room about this, and that's what debating is about, to express opinions of difference and come to a consensus at the end. So I now intend to move to the vote. So those in favour of this motion, please now show. Yep. Those against? Thank you. Abstentions? One abstention. Have we counted? Oh, sorry, my apologies. That's my apologies. I didn't realise you'd asked that. Can you show again, please, for those in favour? Much, and those against? Seven, Chairman. Eight, Chairman. Thank you. And abstentions? One. Chair. Thank you. My apologies. I should have asked. And so we move on to the next motion presented by Councillor Jarman.
Chair, could I, sorry to,
Point of order, sir.
I was just going to jump in with a point of order. Pertaining to procedure rules, motions on notice. If we continue with these preambles over the next year, we're never going to get any business done. By the Constitution, they are supposed to be clear, succinct, with no lengthy preamble. So, Chair, can we define what a preamble is in terms of length moving forward, please? The preamble here, they're both longer than the motion. Thank you.
Preambles are within what I can see as reasonable. We've had some which are significantly longer than these, so these are actually shorter than previous ones. And I would not want to limit a preamble by specific numbers of what it constitutes in order to allow people, and we will continue.
Can I have a point of order, please?
What is your point of order, Jeff?
Of order, Chair, is we haven't been presented with all the procedural rules as I asked for. I asked for part 4A and part 4B. Motions on notice are very specific, and Councillor Dawes referred to some of that, very specific about what is required. A preamble is almost entirely the content of speeches that are about to be made. So it's a duplication. Councillor Garrett was absolutely correct in what he said earlier on. Preambles should not be printed. If I'd had the time, I was going to raise this with Mr. Fernandez in the absence of the monitoring officer, because I've never ever seen this before. You've described it as preamble. That has been reasonable, but it's contrary to the rules regarding motions on notice for this council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. But we've always received in this format. I've been in office. They have always had. We've always had this there. Anyway, we are proceeding. Thank you, Councillor Jarman.
I want to point. I have a point of order because of respect to Councillor Jarman, but the motion I'm very confused about, because it says the council directs that finance officers and treatment carry out the following. I don't think it is right that we actually give instructions to officers in that way, and I just want to clarify that really, because I've never seen a motion that is actually giving instructions from full council to officers. Shouldn't that go through the executive, and shouldn't we be referring this to cabinet? I mean, and it's also, it will take officer time, which costs money. So there's financial implications to this of that, and I just feel that that you need to perhaps refer to
I shall refer to the monitor.
To the monitoring officer about it, because I think it should be referred to cabinet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure there'll be further questions on this as we go through the debate, which I'll quite happily answer, Chairman. In terms of instructs, I mean, I can't really, there is wise words and there are legal words. They're different things. Whether it's wise is one thing, whether it's legal is another. So I think the council can instruct. Whether it's wise for them to do so is another issue. But the council can instruct officers to do it. Yeah, but I think the wise thing would be to do it via the chief executive. It's the wise thing.
Thank you. Just a second. I've got another point of order here.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor, you made a very specific point, Chair, so I'd like clarification on that point, which is it has financial implications, therefore should go before the executive.
Thank you, Chairman. In terms of financial implications, what the council does as a body is it sets the financial framework for the executive. So if the council were to start to make operational financial decisions, and that would potentially be unlawful. But what the council can do is set the financial framework, which is what it does through the budget system. So in terms of the instruction to officers, most things that officers are doing are going to have some kind of financial implications. I don't think there's anything unlawful about that aspect of the motion.
Just clarify.
Sorry,
just clarify that.
I wasn't asking about the instructions by officers. I was asking about if, as Councillor Lee made the point, Chair, that the proposal has financial implications. If it has financial implications, should it not go before the executive? I think it's very clear. Can we have a yes or a no, or an explanation either way?
you, Chairman. If I can just read an extract from Constitution, where it talks about motions on expenditure. It says any motion which is moved at a full council meeting that would have the effect of materially increasing the expenditure of any service or would involve capital expenditure shall, unless that motion has been previously considered by Cabinet, stand adjourned without discussion to the next ordinary meeting of the council. And the Cabinet shall consider whether it desires to report thereon back to the full council. So I think the issue there is, in terms of this constitutional provision, is materially increasing the expenditure. So the request of officers doesn't materially increase the expenditure. That's a hard one, really. I mean, I think generally everything that yeah, I mean, most things that you ask officers to do. Yeah, sure. I think the most things that you ask officers to do will have a financial impact. I think the issue is the level of that financial impact. So I think the issue here in terms of the motion is by implementing this motion. If you look at the budget process generally, what would happen is that the Cabinet have a statutory responsibility to propose a budget, and then other members through a group or individuals have an opportunity to have amendments to that budget. So that's part of the normal process of budget setting. So I think the issue for council and I guess for officers is what is being proposed. Will that really materially move it from that? And I think some of the language is perhaps stark, and it just depends what it means in terms of how that motion operates in practice.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop the meeting for a minute while I just take a little bit more advice on this, so I'm clear about what's happening here. That's what I need to do. Okay, so I'm just going to stop it just for a few minutes. Thank you. It'll take a few minutes. let's go here first. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you, councillors, for giving us that time just to try and sort out our heads around that. We'll go back to the monitoring officer to explain. But I have to say to you, just remember there are only 8 minutes of this particular session for motions left. Less than that now.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be quick. I mean, in terms of the potential material expenditure, if the result of this motion or the effect of this motion, the desire of this motion, is to just ensure that members, opposition members, have an opportunity to present amendments to the cabinet statutory budget, then that would be part of the normal course of events, and that would be fine. If this council was seeking something more, then you might trigger that constitutional provision that I just read out. And the second point, which I think it's important to make, is that although there's been the language of instructing officers, and I think that's council's gift to how they want to word a motion, as a matter of practical effect, that would have to be via the chief executive, because she's the head of paid service. So you can't have individual members or council instructing individual officers. That would have to be via the chief executive, head of paid service. That would go without whatever the motion said. That's how it would operate, because the employment relationship that the council has is via the chief executive. Thank you, Chairman.
So the proposal then is to proceed. Now, but bearing in mind, we only have a few minutes left. 6 minutes left. Okay.
I'm sorry, I really am sorry to do this. The motion calls for, Chair, the council directs that finance strategic managers carry out the following. First line, make available all finance and budgetary preparation materials. There is privileged information for the executive. This motion cuts across that, and this council cannot. Is this become ultra virus perhaps? Because this cuts across.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Point of order.
Yeah, no, you've made your point of order, but that does not necessarily mean that it can't be amended to that point. So not in 6 minutes by the sounds of it. Yeah. Yes, it could be. Yeah. No, because we still haven't got to the point of the motion.
Chair, I propose the motion as written and I look for a seconder.
So the motion has been seconded by Councillor Spinks. Okay. Just a second, I'm dealing with this first. I'm dealing with this first. So sorry, councillor, you have moved to the vote. Yep. Yep. That's right. And it was seconded, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that is correct. So do councillors wish to move to the vote? Please show. And we need a count. Thank you. Those against? Okay. Yeah, 6. Abstentions? 2 abstentions. I realise that I didn't vote, so I will abstain. I should have voted. So, okay, thank you. Therefore, we are moving to the vote.
Yeah,
Okay.
I put my hand up earlier, and so did Councillor Bacon, because I'm really uncertain about this motion. But I put that up before we went to the vote.
We're not in debating. I'm sorry.
I can't.
No, I'm sorry. We're not in debating. we are moving to the vote.
I can't participate in
Sir?
in a motion that I believe is ultra vires. I
Okay,
just
well,
don't think
well,
that's
that is
right.
your,
No,
that is
but
your
you've put
right.
us in this
That is your
position.
right.
You've
That
put
is
us
your
in this
right to do
position.
that. Okay, that is your right to do that. Thank you very much. We're moving.
Raise it as a point of information. I think I'm allowed to ask that before we move to the vote.
No, no, that I don't believe there is. I'm sorry. We're moving to the vote. Please, those in favour of this motion, show. And I am going to show. Yes, please. Much. Those against?
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Come on, councillors, we must have a clear vote. We must have a clear vote. 16. Abstentions? Thank you very much. That is then carried. No, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, give me strength. So we're now able to move on to members' questions. Do we have any questions? We have Councillor Redrup.
Thank you, Chair. 7 days ago, a heartbreaking letter was published in On the White detailing the experience of a woman fleeing domestic violence with her 6-month-old daughter. As the refuge was full, she was moved from hostel to hotel to B&B. At one point, she was moved to a B&B just 3 doors down from her abuser. This is completely unacceptable. So my question to the Cabinet is the refuge often at capacity? And if so, what are the plans in place to expand it?
Thank you very much for your question. Leader, would you like to take that?
My understanding is we don't have refuge facilities on the island right now.
Do you want the right to reply on that?
We do have refuge facilities on the island. They're managed by the commission service by the council. So as the service is commissioned by the council, I would argue that it is within the council's direction to request that it's expanded or invest more money into it.
I'll get you a written reply then.
Thank you very much for your question. Councillor Lilly.
Question to the leader. You mentioned in your previous report about the youth service and youth investment in Sandown. The youth services on this island were cut in 2017 by the previous administration. But a number of town, parish and community councils took action and provided services in Ryde, Newport, Sandown, but also the voluntary sector in a lot of ways. But what you now have on the island is a postcode lottery. If you're lucky to go to in Ryde or live in the area of Ryde, you could get extremely good youth services. And that's the case and going to be in Sandown with the new youth services there. But there are parts of this island where young people were not. And as
You
a
need to
mental
ask the
health-
question, please.
My question. What is the council going to do to get equality for our young people so they've got out of school youth provision right across this island?
Thank you. Councillor Jordan.
Well, thank you, Councillor. And of course, it's a budgetary question because one of the reasons that the previous administration didn't manage to continue is because the financial position it was in, which we inherited. And unless we're successful in additional funding, will continue into the new committee system council. So it's a question of, can we find the money to fund youth services in a wider way than we do already? That's the question. With the budget process coming up shortly, it will be an opportunity, if we can find the money, to put some money into it, Councillor Lilly. So let's have a look where the money is.
Just let people answer the questions before, but yes, you may have your supplementary.
Obviously, the council has supported in putting money to the Youth Investment Fund, and there are still available monies within that fund and a number of other national sort of youth funds. So is there any plans to work with parish and town and community councils in accessing that money, which has obviously happened in Sandown?
Thank you.
We continue to work with through iWalk and directly with town and parish, mostly through iWalk. We do all we can to attract and be successful in grant funding, whether it's youth services or any other grant funding availability. So that will continue, and we will continue to work to try and develop and improve the youth service. Mindful, Michael, that we are 2 of the 5 Ryde councillors who provide an excellent youth service in Ryde with fantastic facilities.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Chair. A question to lead the council at first. On the 18th of December, the Ministry of Housing, Communities, Local Government published a consultation document strengthening the standards and conduct framework for local authorities in England. And the time frame for responding to this is the 26th of February. I was just wondering, having read it, it's it's like a massive change to the way that we look at our standards of behaviour, and it has long-lasting, deep and trying to think of the right words here, but yes, can very sort of severe upshots from any misconduct. So I'm just wondering, my question is, Leader, is there any committee of this council or any work being done to provide a response to this? Bearing in mind, I've only got to the 26th of February in which to do so.
Thank you, Councillor Jones-Evans. I can assure you that we will be making representations in that regard. I know that the LGA have a consultation process out currently. I will ensure you all that we will make representations in that regard to the conduct of councillors.
Councillor Mosdale.
I'd just like to say, Leader, I'm not overly political when I usually come out with my comments, but I would respect your courtesy in the other direction to this side of the chamber. Actually, the Conservatives did do a balanced budget. We only left because we didn't get a majority at the election, and actually the alliance is still limping along at the moment, getting votes where you can. But actually we did do a balanced budget. This council ran off that balanced budget, saying that we didn't. There is only one administration that walked away when they couldn't balance the budget. So let's try and be correct and not inflammatory, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. No, it's not. Okay, yeah. I know that feelings are high in response, but
I will get the answer.
We know that feelings are high. Chair, no. Thank you. Councillor Brodie.
Thank you, Chair. Isn't it interesting that last week was devolution week and it's hardly been mentioned tonight, so I'm going to raise it. Last week, unusually for cabinet members across the England nation, across English counties, cabinet members were advised and took that advice not to vote at the extraordinary council regarding devolution, the devolution agenda. And yet the following night, and I attended both meetings for these votes, 7 of the 8 cabinet members present voted on the issue. They voted in favour, and their votes were added to those in favour from the previous night. And the leader was very clear that as far as he was concerned, that was democratic. And I have to say, I entirely agree with them, though I do think they should have voted full council, as their colleagues in Hampshire did, as they did up and down the country. In 2 weeks' time, we have another extraordinary council regarding school places, which is advisory yet again. I am assuming, though I probably shouldn't assume on this council, that the same advice will appertain to cabinet members, and that some will depart when the vote comes and some will abstain, and then the cabinet will take place a week or so later, I think it is, and they will vote there instead, up to 8 of them. Can I ask the leader if he will be applying the same democratic values to that cabinet meeting that he applied to the cabinet meeting last week in terms of the votes being added together? Because that's important in terms of my approach to that meeting in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brodie. If I've understood that correctly, I think I have. If the advice that the cabinet members receive is to not vote, then whilst they may have an individual choice, I'm happy to respect that. If what you're saying, that they will vote at the cabinet meeting following, and I'm happy, as I have done last week, to count the support either way, for or against the motion. So I hope I've understood the questions.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair and Leader, because that's very clear to me now that the same will apply at the cabinet regarding school places as it did regarding devolution. That's an important message. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That was my intention for that meeting. And so we have no more questions. So that, I then believe, is the end of this meeting. And thank you, everybody. I think there's been a lot of really good debate going on this evening.